Hello, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi. This has been 2 weeks. It has been 2 weeks since I had a last live streaming, so thank you so much for coming back. Let me check there we go. The audio is good. I apologize for the last week sudden cancellation at the last moment. I had a little car issue and then I had to take care of a little business over there, so I had to cancel that, both English version and Japanese version. I'm glad that I could come back. And I'm still not 100% back to the ordinary, but I brought some topics today, and I hope that I can talk about it. At the same time, if you have any questions about Sashiko, this is a place for me to talk about it. So this is the live streaming where I talk about Sashiko while doing the Sashiko stitching. This is not a lecture or tutorials or webinar, so please, I'm not going to answer any technical questions. Instead, I would like to talk about some cultural aspect of Sashiko and also some raise the concerns and stuff like that. So if you could bring something for you to stitch and then stitch together, that'd be really good. All right, I will change the camera and there we go. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for coming back. Ooh. It's a long week. It's a long week and then long. It has been long 2 weeks. I am going to do the oil change by myself from now on. That was a little too stressful. I think they fixed it, but I don't know about it. Did I miss you introducing yourself? I think I don't introduce myself all the time. But yeah, it's the end of the, almost end of the 2023. I hope you are wrapping up stuff to have a new, good new year. So I brought a topic today outside of the comfort zone to learn something new. And probably this topic will go back to the recent concern that it is kind of too late for me to speak up about the Sashiko we practice. It will probably come back to that concern. Like the concern I spoke up in this live streaming in 2023 can be probably summarized into two categories. One that Sashiko introduced in English is very simplified, and second, it is probably too late to speak up. We have been talking about what I mean by that. At the same time, I am trying to see how I can convey or sort of transform these concerns to some other voice or stories. And I just uploaded the second part of the dialogue, volume 3 with Tai. He has been helping me a lot to understand what is going on. And it is always a good support from you to me to teach me, to give me the opportunity to learn what is the best way to introduce Sashiko. I think the Sashiko introduced in English is already fixed. It's very much fixed already. I knew it probably, but the summary of this year I felt much stronger that the Sashiko we do is very much the minority, especially in English. And question itself is changing a lot. And for example, the question is like, do I ever follow those dot pre-printed? And the pre-printed dot pattern came later after the Sashiko stitching we practice. But for majority of the people who practice Sashiko right now, that is the answer. So what I do is kind of strange to them because I don't follow those stitches size. But the mainstream is already there, following the answers. And I'm very happy that I could release the course Domestica as the sort of introduction to the Sashiko we practice, because I had to say that I did not have any recommendation for Sashiko before the Domestica course. Right now, I can say that the Domestica course is the recommendation to start. So I don't have any recommendation for books, by the way. I still don't have those recommendations because they tend to define the answers, and they're not wrong, but it could be misleading. It is misleading. It's not could. It is misleading. So right now, in order to learn Sashiko, they have to get out from the comfort zone, and that's the key. When Sashiko was not in trend, there were no such a thing as the pre-existing condition. So everything they learned for the first time was already something new. So there were no such a thing as the comfort zone. But if they can reach to me, if they come across to me before the other Sashiko, they might not go through. They might not have to go through discomfort. But for those who started Sashiko in a different understanding or different answers, what I share can be quite uncomfortable, especially for those who really, really like to have the answer. So that's the kind of reason I keep saying it is too late to share the Sashiko. And in the last 2 years, not 2 years, 2 weeks ago in the live streaming, I said that it is too late to share what Sashiko is without the pain. And when I say the pain, probably I did not specify what the pain is. It is the pain that I have to go through with them to get out from their uncomfortable zone, as well as I have to kind of offer something uncomfortable, which is gonna be a quite big pain. So it's 2023 was a big year to me. It's a very, very big year to me. That it is quite. It won't be easier. It has never been easier. It will not be easier next year too. But the good news is, though, it is a very good news. The good news or positive side of this story, it's not always like a negative side of the story. There are people who listen to me. That's the very biggest. It is still ongoing. It's not like that I have to give up everything. It is going to be okay. It's gonna be okay over time. It may take more time. It might be more difficult. At the same time, it will be. It's kind of hopeful message. At the same time, I feel like it's gonna be okay. There are Japanese people who try to preserve this type of Sashiko we practice, and their work is phenomenal. That their work is super great, and because Sashiko is the stitching needlework, often what we create speak more than what we teach. So I teach Sashiko, but at the same time we make a lot of stuff. And if I don't make, what I teach can be sort of superficial for that matter. But because of what we make, it speaks for what we are. instead of like a story itself. And there are so many Sashiko friends I got in the last 2-3 years, in COVID, after COVID, even before the COVID as well. But they had a time to do more Sashiko stitching in those COVID era, and their Sashiko is beyond my expectation, imagination. I mean, I've been stitching for a long time, and they just started a few years ago, 5 years ago. Like, the longest one was 6 years, and they are already great Sashiko artisans. So it is going somewhere. I am not completely devastated. It is not something I have to give up. It's not something I'm very negative about. It's good stuff. There are good things, but sometimes it is quite painful to see the discussion online. I don't really engage in any of those unless it is happening in my platform. If somebody brought the topic about those things in my platform, like Instagram or Facebook page, then I will, of course, share my ideas, or it's not even opinion, the fact. I will share my fact, but I don't really go to other people's website or Facebook page or Instagram to contradict what they say. It's just tiring. It does not bring me anything. It's just tiring, and people don't listen to what they don't want to listen to. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. They really don't want, if it's not something they don't want to, if it's not something they would like to listen to, they will not just open their mind, or they will never change their ideas. So it's lose situation. There's no win-win. At the same time, I always be part of those groups to learn what's going on. In order to speak up, learning what is going on, trend is very important. So my recommendation is to kind of learn a lot of Sashiko. There's tons of Sashiko right now introduced in English. 5 years ago, there were none videos explaining what Sashiko was, and nobody was using this thimble. There was one person, she is a Japanese person, and I think her name was Miho-san. Her video is gone already on somewhere, but there was one person who was explaining what Sashiko, and she had a shop online in 2010, 11, 12, 13-ish, around that time. But her video was there, and she was talking about unshin, but her stitching was using these two fingers, middle finger, not a middle finger, index finger and thumb. And then you can probably find my video coming up around 2016 to 2017. And then right now, right now it's everywhere. So many of those are there. I don't want to declare this, so I can be wrong. I'm trying to find the explanation for what's going on. But as long as I know, there are no other people who were teaching how to use this thimble before those videos. So they are pretty much copying what I had shared online. And please don't get me wrong, I encouraged in the video to say like copy it, because my goal was to make sure that this thimble, this needle exists in the future. So I wanted to share. That's why I uploaded the video. But I have not met anybody who learned from their family or their ancestors, their grandma, how to use this thimble. There are people who were using this thimble before somewhere, and I have heard about them. but not specific one yet. By the way, my family is my background is the Sashiko family, right? In my family, the people, artisans who use this thimble with the middle fingers were very minority. 10 to 20% of the artisans use this thimble, and I kind of implemented to my style. And I can do both. I can use any fingers for that matter. The reason I decided to make those videos is that by using the middle finger, the more people can do it, regardless of their size of the hand, the size of their hand. If I use the other fingers, like non-middle finger or other fingers, the size of the hand or the length of fingers, those start bothering. And I sometimes may have to say that you cannot do this because of the size of the hand. And I did not want that because I still believe and I believed and I still believe that everybody should be able to do the Sashiko as the way we practice. So that's more like the way I installed together with other artisans. Now it's like this middle finger is very much the orthodox way to do Sashiko. It's not. It's really not. Many people use the middle finger, but it's not the orthodox way. It has probably become, which is great, so that this thimble will survive. I hope that the manufacture of this thimble will survive. And this running stitch will survive. That's gonna be very, very good news to me. But the mainstream was using those two fingers too. And many books published before 2016, they do not use this thimble very well. Not very well, very often. The books published after 2019, 2018, they use a lot of, they copied it. I asked some of them where they learned the Sashiko from, and their answer was very, very, very disrespectful. So I kind of guessed that, they probably, well, in this world, everything is free. So if they looked at on the website or YouTube, they can teach that as if that's their skill, no matter the problem is that they are probably teaching Sashiko without mentioning what is the most important thing about Sashiko, because they only focus on Sashiko. I'm sorry, technique, and that's the reason I don't like those discussions on the website, because they say that Sashiko is the technique. Ooh, no, it's not a word for technique. Technique is a very important part of Sashiko, but Sashiko is not a word for technique. But I guess in English, that's the... See, there's a lot of misunderstanding or misleading or simplified information already. And my voice is not that convenient for them to listen to. So I will be another minority voice in 2024 again. And I don't see other way around though. There's no way around it, because it's like a catch-22 for that matter. That's what we talked about it with Thai. It is easier to define what I do as the answer, but in order to do that, I will lose my value, because that's not what I believe in. What I do is not going to, it's a answer. It's one answer, but it's not the answer. By defining the answer, we will exclude the other answers, and then that's not what I want to do. Because that's not what it is. So it's gonna be kind of a difficult year At the same time, I do have a lot of opportunity to teach Sashiko in person, online. I hope that I can organize another Japan trip at some point. And those people who join those workshops, they will see what I mean, and they can stitch more. They can stitch more, and they can probably feel more. I talked about the speed of stitching, and speed is not important in Sashiko. It's not important in Sashiko, but stitching slow is not a Sashiko neither. Speed comes naturally with it. It will be faster by just doing it. And it's not just practicing. And don't excuse yourself saying like, well, it's the matter of practice. It's not a matter of practice. Of course, one needs some time to practice it, but it's the matter of form. It's the matter of how to, like, no matter how much you cut the apples, if you hold the knife like that and cutting like this, you will not get better in cutting apples. So everything has a little form, like how to hold, how to use those tools. And that is the key. So if you have the form, yes, everything you do will be part of your skill and part of your experience. As the result, you will. I don't know anybody who care about the speed among my friend. They stitch fast. They stitch very, very fast. In order to stitch a lot of Sashiko, you have to stitch faster. If you stitch one by one, you will not really stitch much. You will not complete the whole denim within a few weeks. But the Sashiko's value or Sashiko's ability or the power in Sashiko is correlating to the hours of stitching or amount of stitching. The more you stitch, the better you will understand. And it's not a language. Language is a plus, but I don't think anyone can get to the answer of Sashiko without stitching. I really appreciate those who like Sashiko's looking and they are very good, big supporters of what we do. So they don't have to be necessary stitcher. They can just wear Sashiko and enjoy Sashiko, and that's the way to enjoy and appreciate the culture. So I'm not minimizing their existence. We appreciate them, and without them we cannot survive. At the same time, when we talk about the essence of Sashiko as the practice, those who actually stitch should be the one who stands on the stage. But again, in this capitalistic world, that's not always the case. And everything is going to the easy side. But yeah, Sashiko has become the name for the pattern, technique, skill, style, right? Those are like anything else? And they don't doubt it. They don't doubt that Sashiko may exist. Sashiko may be something else. They might not know that it's a Japanese word for that matter. I really wish one day that I can have kind of an argument with other Japanese people who may be speaking up about the Sashiko in English. But that's gonna be a dream, I guess. It's gonna be the dream. It's not gonna happen. Because those who can speak English right now and who learn Sashiko because they can speak English will be hugely or significantly influenced by those Sashiko introduced in English already. So they will not come from the Japanese side. So technically speaking, the Japanese Sashiko artisans who decided to learn English from different approach. And if I can have an argument, discussion, dialogue with those people, that would be really, really appreciated. but well, the discussion doesn't have to be in English. It has to be in English though, because if I do it in Japanese, then the translation itself will twist the essence of the conversation, I guess. Well, but I gotta find something to do. Not something to do. I gotta find a way to make it happen. Yeah, just a second. Okay. There might be the ad again, so I'll take a little break. I talked a lot again. 30 minutes without stopping. I cannot believe that I can talk to myself for 30 minutes without stopping. It's my English is getting better, I guess. But many people tell me that my English is kind of getting better for that matter. It's more easier to listen to, more I do have accent. I do have strange English composition, I guess. Sometimes as I as I live in the US, as I talk to my family in English, and as I do this live streaming every week, it should get better. Although I don't have a form. Do I have a form? I think I don't. I may have a form of the English, speaking English. So I hope that it's getting better somehow. I have a teacher, so-called office, for my English. So if you would like to know where my English comes from, that's pretty much that show. Okay, sorry if the ads kicks in. It shouldn't be the long one. It happens every 30 minutes or so. So okay. Should be good. Did the ad kicked in? It's about time. If not, sorry, it might. I don't want that to interrupt what we say, what we talk about. What else should I do? Don't copy this, okay? Please do not imitate. Please do not imitate what I'm gonna do right now. Please don't, okay? Please use the rulers or measure, and don't do this one. And I'm not kind of joking. Like, please, the level of Sashiko stitching is very much correlated to the accuracy of preparing the pattern. And that's what many artisans say, that the stitches aesthetic, the beautiful stitches, it's not like size itself or evenness itself. The beauty of the stitching is very much affected or related to the beauty of pattern you prepare. So Sashiko's preparation is as important as actual stitching. So don't do this. Please use the I can probably do all freehand, but again, that's not my recommendation. Okay. So I kind of mentioned about the thimble, right? To be honest, not to be honest, there are several Japanese Sashiko artisans who kind of angry at me. Angry at me that I'm not angry at that. I had a conversation with several Japanese artisans as well as the Japanese. I think she's in PhD. I think she was in PhD or she's in the researcher side, and also somebody who was doing the Japanese craft, and those Japanese stitchers, Japanese Sashiko stitchers, have been stitching Sashiko for like 30 years, 40 years, like more than my more than my life length. So they were kind of upset with me that saying, like, why don't you claim that it's yours? And there's a lot of discussion on that. It's not mine, and I don't want to say that it's only mine, it's only ours. Nobody can own the ordinary practice. And this is not, we're not talking about something like rocket science. It should have existed somewhere else. We just don't find it yet. But they are quite upset that, well, I don't get the credit. We don't get the credit. Those people who practice Sashiko last 40, 50, 60 years old, 60 years, do not get credited. That's probably what they were upset. And there are another group of the people who kept saying, I think they're still saying that, don't do that, don't share that, don't go to the live streaming, don't show it, don't do that. We had a pretty big fight actually, to be honest, 7 years ago. They worried about me very much, and I understand their worryings, but at the same time I was worried more to lose it, not what I can get through it, but itself. So something is happening, something will be happening, so I hope it's not gonna be, it is too late to share the Sashiko we practice without the uncomfortableness or pain, struggle, but I hope that it's not too late as is, as like, challenge itself. Sorry, Leah's comment. I guess I don't understand why some people are resistant to learning how to use the thimble. It's not that. No. I don't understand that neither. It's not that hard. Well, it can be hard for some people if they don't know what to do. But for in that case, I don't understand why they don't come to me. I mean, my workshop, my online class, it is not cheap, but at the same time, if you think that you can get the lifetime skill, like I don't teach Leah anymore. Leah is already completed in terms of Sashiko running stitch. So she or people here, some of the people here will not be able to do Sashiko without this thimble. And once they get there, there's nothing I can there's nothing I can teach. Unfortunately, I'm not that good. And for those who have difficulties, I try to follow up no matter what. If they try to come to me, it's my responsibility to, I don't say that you'll get unlimited support, because that can be I don't want them to cut and paste my word and then say, like, you can get unlimited support. We have to define what is the support for, right? Like, I don't support their Japanese language. So, but if they are wishing to learn after taking my class, I'm happy to offer those things. So I just don't know what kind of blocking them. Oh, Jada-san, welcome back. Konbanwa. I just wanted to drop by and say hello. Life has been so busy lately. And same here. Hello. Thank you so much for coming by. Well, the November and Decembers are probably very busy time, so I hope you can have safe time. Not safe time. You can have a relax. You can have a slow time for the stitching too. Is the thimble unique to your family style of sashiko compared to other style of sashiko? I cannot say for other sashiko because I don't know well enough to talk about it. But there are sashiko without this thimble too. That's for sure. And there are kind of many big masters in Japan. Yoshida Eiko sensei or Sugiura sensei. They're teachers who taught sashiko, let's say 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Majority of them do not use it, in my understanding. But at the same time, this thimble existed a long time ago. It's not something we invented. The thimble itself was there. Which fingers, which pose, which posture, those can be kind of uniqueness maybe. But again, I cannot compare them because I don't know the other. And those other does not exist anymore. So unless they define who they like, it might be a very, very, very strong saying. You just gotta add. That's weird. It shouldn't come in this time. Wait. Yeah, it shouldn't come right now. Well, this might be a really huge saying, but if the video was made after 2027, and if they do not specify who they learn sashiko from, that is probably a copy of my live streaming or videos. It's just a guess. I don't know. I have asked so many people, but they don't answer. Unfortunately, they usually block what I. There are so many people who, like, so many authors who block my account. I just asked, like, where did you get that information from? There is the author who just published the book about, using this thimble. I just simply asked, like, where did you get that from? It's not that common. I would like to know the upstream. There are no other Japanese teachers who are teaching the running stitch back then. So I just simply asked them where did they get information, and they mentioned one Japanese lady's name which does not do sashiko much. I happen to know that person, so I talked to them, and she said no. So, well, yeah, that might be a big saying, but other famous, not famous, popular, and the author, like non-Japanese sashiko books author, they do not use the thimble much too, especially if the book was published before 2026. And they say that they don't use the thimble pretty loudly too. So about uniqueness, it is not that unique if we look at the big picture. But at the same time, if we look at the small picture of this 10 years transition, I don't know other who teach how to use this thimble from other Sashiko. That's why many Japanese students come to me as well. That's something I'm very proud of. Like if I am just here speaking about Sashiko in English only, my story itself is kind of not validated, non-valid, because I might be just saying something made up. I can be saying like it does not make sense to many other Japanese people. Might be. But because I am having those meeting every 2 weeks with those Japanese stitchers, we stitch together and we exchange the informations, we learn each other, and they learn sometimes English to be part of this live streaming or gathering. So that's why I can speak up this with better confidence. I'm not saying something crazy. I might be exaggerating some of those. I may be I don't think I'm exaggerating it, but I'm not hallucinated for that. So that's why many Japanese people come to me and then they learn how to use this thimble. That's the way to go. I don't really issue certification, but I encourage anyone who take my workshop to teach around. They can offer the workshop if they wish. And only things I ask is to kind of list where they got this information from. And if they can use the supplies we try to protect, then that's going to be a very good support for this sustainability. But you will find where, well, it doesn't have to be me, but I just like to make sure that where it comes from, the upstream is very, very, very important, right? Upstream is the key to preserve the culture. I don't understand why people in Japan are angry that you teach how to use the thimble. They are not angry that I teach how to use the thimble. They are angry because I don't claim that. They are saying that I should be more particular about it. They don't like. They sometimes for example, there's no patent. It's very unique. In Sashiko, if there's so many Sashiko cultures, Sashiko difference, right? Don't you wonder why there's no such a thing as the patent, trademark, those other intellectual properties? Why don't we have those things to protect that? Because if we try to focus on as the intellectual properties, that loses the sense of Sashiko. So once it is registered as the intellectual property, we believe that it's going to lose the value of Sashiko. It has to be nobody's property. It's not a property neither to begin with. So like if I start saying like, well, this is my thimble, that's why I can only use it, that is gonna lose the whole purpose of this practice. That's a very, very Western or very, I think it's not wrong to say Western way to preserve the culture. And my family tried to do that and they really, really didn't like it. But at the same time, it's probably the easiest way to protect the culture. So if you protect it with the law, you can probably protect it while you exist, while the law exists. But the practice itself will not survive through these years. I hope this makes sense. Having taken a small Japanese language class, I understand why it's difficult to translate Japanese to English and vice versa. Nah. Please keep it going. It's a fun language. Welcome to American if it's all I can speak to cultural appropriation without creating source. Yeah, I don't. I am still learning about the cultural appropriation, so I don't know if what I'm experiencing is the cultural appropriation itself. It may be, it may not be. I don't have the conclusion yet. At the same time, it's not only American things happening. I guess it's happening everywhere. We do that too. It's just everything became so free, so easy to access, and we can always find the answer we want to hear or look at. If I don't like the answer, we can always go somewhere else and find out. So that kind of changed so many information kind of blur where that information is from. Does it make a difference if you're lefty? No, I can do both way. I can do from the left side as well. Ideally, I should do stitch like that, and if I stitch like this, that's much faster because I don't have to turn the fabric around, but I don't do it for some reasons. And I think at some point I will share why I don't do that. But yeah, doesn't matter. Lefty can do it. Sometimes I read somewhere like a long time ago, there were thread for the lefty, or the thread for the left-handed people. Um, that's a kind of good idea to think of that. There's a way we spin the thread. So technically speaking, that's not a bad idea. At the same time, if one has to depend on the thread twist to make a good stitch because you're right-handed or left-handed, then that's actually not a good sign because you're not following the form. Once you follow the form, it shouldn't be that big of the deal. The thread twist shouldn't be a big deal either left-handed or right-handed. Sashiko has a spirit of its own. Trademarking it causes it to lose some of its anima. Needles and thimbles too have a spirit. It's what we need to care for them. Yes. And that's something missing. Something is missing. Atsushi is the only teacher of anything I've ever had who didn't freak out on learning what I left-handed. I left-handed is perfectly the there's one student I kind of gave up after after a very big discussion, and there's one student I gave up for both of us as the teacher, and she was like 90 something years old, and she started stitching when she was a child, so she was stitching for like 90 years or so, and she was a really great stitcher. And this was for the first time to use this thimble, and she really wanted to try that. At the same time, as she had a pretty bad arthritis. Arthritis itself is not an issue. We can go around it. But she was very suffering, and I usually force everybody to follow the posture for the 6 hours or the course itself. They can choose whatever they want after the workshop after that, but the uncomfortableness may help them to learn what Sashiko is. So I try to push that through. But she is She's the only one I strongly remember to sort of say, I'm sorry that I did not want to sort of. She was very complete, and I really did not want to do anything about it. Jade, okay, now I have to try Sashiko with my left hand. Go ahead, it's gonna be pretty fun experience. You may not like it, but I did not practice for the purpose of stitching. Well, there were some artisans I grew up with who can stitch really as the same, both hand, like no difference, like soccer player, like a good soccer player. I'm not that skilled, but it is very easy for the left-handed people to see me stitching on the left hand because they don't have to switch it in their brain. So when I teach in person, if they are left-handed, I try to use the left hand to do that. So it's not that big of a deal. If you don't have a thumb, that might be a little bit of an issue. But if you have a thumb and any finger of those, like one fingers from any fingers, I think I can teach you that. I think I can teach. Thumb plus this finger, or thumb plus this finger, or even well, pinky finger might be a little bit difficult, but like if the person who wants to learn Sashiko does not have three fingers somewhere here, I think I can try. I can adjust my teaching. It doesn't have to be middle finger. That's the key. Does not have to be the middle finger. It's the easiest way to teach, not to learn. It's not probably the easiest to learn. It's the easiest way for me to teach to those who I don't know until the moment that I teach, and within the 6 hours of the time limit. I don't know what kind of hand they have. Like everybody has a different hand. The tool we use is very, very specified. One size needle, one size thimble, but everybody has a different hand. And I kind of promised that everybody can do it. So in order to make that happen, the middle finger was the key to do that. Some people may find the index finger much easier. Like my mother doesn't use the middle finger at all. I don't know if well, I have never seen her doing that. So it's not the answer. It's just the sort of, we call it wisdom, I guess. Okay. And there might be another ad kicking in. That's another 30 minutes again. Yeah, I'm so glad that I could come back to this live streaming after last week's accident. Not accident, but the unfortunate event. It is kind of difficult to come back to the routine, so it's easier to kind of leave it as is. It's easier to keep offering when it's every week, but once I take a week off, either planned or unplanned, it is always kind of difficult to restart it. Okay, so as I said, when and where is the workshop? Has it occurred already? On pretty much anywhere. Well, not anywhere in the US, but please check my website, upcyclestitches.com, and there's the workshop schedule for the 2024. which is quite packed at this moment already. So I hope you can find a space somewhere. I'm I'm now scheduling the workshop for 2025. Oh my, that's one very, 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 very big privilege I received by this trend. Some cares, and there are not that many Japanese who teach Sashiko in English. So for those who cares, and they don't have like even if they they are Japanese who can speak English, who may be able to teach some Sashiko, they don't have a visa or they don't have a status to get paid in the US. So yeah, I am very much fortunate to do that. I don't have to search for the place to teach at this moment. I try to kind of control, look, I'm doing the opposite. I'm trying to control the amount of the workshop I do every year. There might be some ads coming in. So yes, this will be done in 2024, and it will be done in 2024. I promised, and I will make that promise happen. So this one, I hope it's gonna be done by spring somehow. And then summer, there's a big program, there's a big process that I kind of procrastinate until today, until next summer. So like the result will be like this, right? It's just there will be 100 meters of those straight. And I don't like the kasane, which is the last part of this stitching. So this much I have to do kasane. So it probably will take some time. I mean, I don't like it, but once I kind of start doing it, once the rhythm kicks in, I think I can do it. I've done already the half of it. So then the last step of the Sashiko is to put those fabric in the water and then activate this stitching. And I have not done that at all. I have not done that at all. So that's gonna be a fun process. It's gonna be extremely heavy. There will be 80 pieces of those hanging somewhere outside of the Pennsylvania. If you find that, that's my house. One or two might fly away. If you find that flying, that's mine. So please catch it for me. But yeah, it's gonna be. I'm not gonna stitch Asanoha at all from now on. I'm getting tired of it. I shouldn't be saying I'm tired of it because, this is not the whole purpose of me doing this is that the pattern does not matter in Sashiko. I can stitch the same pattern forever. That's the reason I started doing this. And I'm trying my best to, prove that I'm not wrong. Not wrong, I'm not lying. But to be honest, it is kind of too much, I have to say. Like, you shouldn't really stitch the same pattern for 100 meters. It will take 2 years, and you might not. At some point, you get tired. I don't hate it, but I just get bored. So I was kind of wrong for that. So please, enjoy the patterns as well. Pattern matters too. But Sashiko is not the word for the pattern. That's completely different. Sashiko is not Sashiko is not the word for technique, style, pattern. What else? Or even the size of stitches. It's not a style. It's none of those. Many people say that Sashiko is the pattern's name or Sashiko is the word for technique. It is not. It is not. It is more than that. The technique and patterns are a very important part of Sashiko. But if we define that Sashiko as the technique, we will lose a lot of important sense. So it is easy for others to say that Sashiko is the technique because that's what they would like to learn. At the same time, as the one who practices Sashiko, I feel I need to explain the bigger picture, which include a lot more. So once we lose the upstream of those practice or culture, we will lose the wealthiness in front of us. We can use the water in front of us thanks to the river we might have nearby. And the river will provide us the water, but any river comes from the upstream. When we ignore those upstream and when we start kind of not caring about it, after all, at some point, we will lose the clear water or, the water we can use almost unlimited. It is very important to not to contaminate those water for the people after us. So it is one way to care the sustainability, and probably the majority of the sustainability right now is like that. How can we protect something we have to the next generation, to the people underneath of the river? It's nice, it's very caring, we have to respect each other. So we have something. If we use that water, if we make it dirty, we should make it clean and then go back to the river. And that's a very, very important part of the sustainability, and that's something we have to do, we should be doing. At the same times, we need to really look for what is the upstream, and no matter how we do well in terms of keeping something clean for the next people in the line, if we ignore the upstream, we may lose that. We may lose the privilege we have right now. I'm talking about river right now. I'm talking about water source right now. But it happens. The same thing goes to the culture, I believe. And the best way you can do is just to acknowledge that. I'm not asking something huge. And there's not, you don't need, there are no need to protect it by some other power, like law, intellectual properties I mentioned. Those restrictions will protect some of it. At the same time, it will it will simplify the culture practice itself. So what we can do is acknowledge. I'm not saying the Sashiko in English is wrong. It's not wrong. It's just simplified. But many people believe that simplified Sashiko is the answer. And those simple answer, which can be the instant gratification, will unfortunately change the culture itself. And those change often, in this case, Sashiko's case, they do not include the Japanese Sashiko practitioners. So I hope that you can keep, there's nothing specific that you have to do, I ask you to do. It's just keep acknowledging. I hope you can keep enjoying Sashiko. And yeah, so you're doing everything. You're here to listen to what I'm saying, my shenanigans and mumbling. That's the acknowledgement already. The fact that I can speak today, the fact that I'm recording this, somebody else might be looking at later on. That will help us to preserve this culture. All right. Thank you so much for the live streaming. I will be gone. I will be back next Thursday. It's not gonna be Christmas, right? It's 21st. So yes, I should be back. Well, the Christmas doesn't matter to me actually, because I'm not a Christian and my family is not a Christian. So I would do the live streaming on the 24th anyway. But yeah, I will be back on next Thursday. If you're watching this live streaming as the archive, your question is always welcome. I might not be able to answer some of the questions. I don't answer the technical questions. Please check my YouTube videos for that. That being said, I hope you have a good night. I hope you will have a great weekend as well. And stay warm. It's pretty cold here as well. And I will see you next week. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye bye. Just a second. Am I off? No, I don't think so.